Pittsburgh's food scene is more flavorful than ever, and we're digging in to celebrate the city's incredible diversity bite by bite.
From tastes that transport you to the streets of Bangkok to the dishes straight out of Mexico City, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette food critic and PTL regular Hal B. Klein is here with a guide to the culinary adventure. And first, we keep calling these internationally owned, but you say in the foodie world, there's kind of a distinction. Talk to us about that.
A little bit, right?
Yeah.
So what I've been looking at over the last couple weeks, really starting with the Pittsburgh Dumpling Project, are immigrant-owned restaurants or refugee-owned restaurants. So people that actually grew up or came here from somewhere else and are now bringing their food and their home to contribute to the city, which is, you know, it's really like an age-old story, right? You think about the Italian immigrants that came over 100 years ago. And now we're seeing, you know, in the last couple weeks, this whole boom of restaurants from people from Uzbekistan, which you wouldn't expect in Pittsburgh.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So talk to us about that.
It's cool. I mean, it's like Uzbekistan is such an interesting country because it's right in the center of like what used to be the Silk Roads, and then has this like whole history of like overlapping immigration. One of the restaurant owners said, you know, like our food is just like American food. It's mixed. It's just a lot older because it's like a 2,000-year-old history. So you have elements of like Chinese cuisine and Turkish cuisine and Indian cuisine and Persian cuisine, plus like the Central Asian cuisine, and then it was part of the USSR, so there's these Soviet elements too.
So it's all blended together.
It's like all blended in this like delicious thing. So there's a new restaurant called Piola in Mount Lebanon that just opened, and they're taking this real like sort of upscale approach with this like festive. It feels like you're going over to someone's like, almost like someone's wedding, almost. It's really fun.
Yeah.
And there's a dish called beshbarak that is this like, these noodles could be like hand-pulled noodles in a northern Chinese restaurant, but the lamb in it and the spices in it could be from like a Persian restaurant, and it's just, I don't know, it's really incredible.
Well, I love how excited you are about it. It's making me excited because it sounds complex, but it also sounds like even if you're not familiar with it, it's going to feel familiar in some way because of all of the influences in it.
Yeah, and I think we all, you know, it's like we all have these cuisines that we love, right? And so you can find that in all these other cuisines from around the world, and then you get to know them, and then you find these new flavors that you're going to start to crave.
So let's go through some of these. So first one, a Chengdu Gourmet. Am I saying it right?
Yeah, Chengdu Gourmet, which is, you know, the owner of it, Wei Zhu, now has 2 restaurants. So there's Chengdu Gourmet 1 in Squirrel Hill, Chengdu Gourmet 2 in the North Hills. And he came to Pittsburgh, so sometimes people come from other countries and they don't have a lot of professional cooking experience, and they learn kind of to cook their home style food. Wei was a trained chef in China, so when he came here, he already had like 20 years of experience, and he's got 5 James Beard semifinalist Best Chef Mid-Atlantic Award nominations.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
So it's pretty spectacular, and I think, you know, one of the things that we still think about of Chinese food, which is great for getting takeout or whatever, but there's this whole other way of like looking at it of these like really masterful chefs. You Bai Wei on Squirrel Hill is another one that's like that.
Okay.
And tell us about this next one. And this one sounds like, is it more traditional Mexican cuisine?
Yeah, you're talking about the little empire of Pastorcitos now.
Yeah.
It's a couple from Puebla and Oaxaca who came to Pittsburgh. He actually worked in Pittsburgh kitchens for 20 years, just working in the kitchens doing stuff. Over COVID in the 2020s, they decided to launch a food truck doing al pastor, which is really big in Mexico City. It's on a spit, and again, it just shows how like global cuisine is. So this actually comes from Lebanese immigrants to Mexico, and then Mexicans took pork and like dressed it with adobo spices and made it their own. And now in Pittsburgh, you see it as well. So it's like cooked on a spit. It's very similar to like a shawarma.
Yes.
But it's its own thing. And it's like, it's really great. And so they have a food truck that you'll find at breweries like Trace Brewing. They have their own restaurant in New Kensington. And then a couple months ago, they actually opened up a little Mexican grocery store in Monroeville, which we're seeing that has a food truck there that they're going even deeper. So we're seeing now the sopes and these tacos, and they're doing it all from scratch. You know, like they're making like that little corn cake in the sope that comes from ground corn that they're like cooking in there, and it's just phenomenal.
All right, before we run out of time,
yeah,
vegan restaurant celebrating food of Trinidad.
Yeah, Shadow Benny is one of my favorite restaurants. Again, another place that started as a pop-up at farmers markets. Ulrich Joseph is an artist, and he decided to just start cooking food from Trinidad, where he's from, which is another place that has influences from Caribbean cuisine, Afro-Caribbean cuisine, but also like a huge Indian immigrant population that came there. So you see things like doubles, which have a roti bread that has a lot of turmeric in it and a lot of chickpeas. It's really, all of this goes to show that you can, global cuisine and all this trade has been going on for so long, and there's so much of it in Pittsburgh right now that we can experience from people that have come here from other places.
This is so wonderful. Yeah. I feel like we want to have all of them on our show. We need to try them all.
Hal's energy is infectious. Thank you, Hal.
I get hungry talking about this.
I know. Well, you can find more from Hal in the Post-Gazette and on our website, pittsburghtodaylive.com.